Hey all, Pi here, and it has been a hot minute since the last time I recorded. I got kinda sick, as those of you who follow me on Twitter will know. I'm feeling better, but I'm also trying not to overdo it too much, so we're gonna see how this goes. Hopefully I'll get a full episode done and still feel okay. We'll see. Anyway, last time we finished off with decorating, when we finished off last time, we were about to decorate the room, so I'm going to fade to the room being decorated and personalized to my specifications. And this is our room. Magic, I know. I don't know, it's kinda cluttered in a cute sort of way. Anyway, we're done. You're really satisfied with the feel of your tiny part of the world. As your thoughts drifted, you tried to bite down another yawn. It was no good. Your bed was now lodged in your mind, and all you could think about was collapsing on it. You trudged up the stairs to your room. Stepping inside, you closed the door behind you, blocking the rest of the house. When you turned back around, you realized you were not alone there. Oh no. Damn it, Cove! You've learned nothing! Comfortably perched on the windowsill was someone very familiar to you. Cove Holden. Dear God, learn to use a door, man! I'm gonna say the shock knocked all the words out of you. I got some choice words for you though, boy. Surprise? This child. Nah, he's a man now. Damn. He's not cute no more. His tone... I'm sorry. His tone was easy and relaxed. It certainly was a surprise. You hadn't expected him to be within the state, never mind in your own house. He hadn't answered how he had suddenly just appeared back in Sunset Bird, though, to be fair, you'd been too astounded to actually ask the question. Thankfully, Cove took the hint from your stunned expression and began to explain.
So...
I got in about 15 minutes ago. No one was home, so I figured I'd come in the usual way. Damn it, Cove. The window. That is a bad habit, boy. I should not have encouraged this. A small smile had formed on his face. You were still staring at him, unable to blink in case he disappeared. You could still barely believe that he was really there, mere feet away from you. I left my bags in your backyard. I hope that's alright. That was when you truly understood. Cove had come straight to you upon getting back to town. You were his first port of call, taking precedence above all else. Aww, I'm special. Even though you hadn't been in when he called, Cove had ensured that he'd see you at the earliest opportunity, rather than allowing his plans to change. You ran to Cove. Every second away from him was a moment too long. As you approached, Cove quickly hopped up from the windowsill to meet you. I missed you. You pulled him into a bone-crushing hug. Cove squeaked as your hug knocked the air out of him. He awkwardly managed to wrap his own arms around your back in return. Cove's hold tightened, and he snuggled the side of his head against yours to be even closer. Being held like this was comforting for the both of you. I missed you too. Even if he hadn't said it outright, you would have gotten the message from his body language. Cove was grinning widely, his raised cheeks burying his eyes, which gleamed like hidden gems. But he looked at you as if you were the most exciting treasure of all. Obviously. Was the trip any good? Cove's brows creased as he considered your question. And we're closer now. Cove stepped towards you. Wait. Okay. Cove stepped towards you. He cupped your face with his hands, gently guiding your chin so your eyes met his. You could feel the beat of your racing pulse against his fingertips. I hated it. Let's never be apart again, okay? I'm down. He said that absolutely as a joke, an exaggeration, something that wasn't a real request, of course, and yet, despite all that, it felt real. Your heart hammered in your chest. Your head swam, cast adrift on a tide of thoughts and adrenaline. Cove smiled, as if offering a silent apology for his sudden onslaught of tenderness, but he let the words proudly hang in the air all the same. Cove told you about how his trip back had gone. Soon you'd even recovered enough to actually listen. Why is that so relatable? Not that I would ever just stare blankly at the wife, not comprehending any of the words out of her mouth. Yes, that is definitely not a thing that has ever happened. Moving on. His mom was doing really well. She had a project in the works that she was thrilled about. As a result, Cove was going to be sticking around in Sunset Bird for the time being. Things were settled as much as they ever could be. With Cove back once more, you felt at ease. Cove stretched his arms out over his head, his eyes on the window and the world beyond. The sun had set while you'd been busy reuniting.
Well,
I should probably get my stuff and see Dad. He glanced over to you with a familiar, expectant look. Wanna come with me? Yes! Is this an option? Is this a legit option? Am I about to get this choice? Yes! You know I do.
cool.
Cove began to head to your bedroom door. I'm gonna be childish. You insisted on a piggyback ride. It was just the normal thing in your relationship. Wait up, I need a ride. Cove shook his head, the smile on his face implying that it was you and your senses he was questioning, not the request. He'd come to expect the latter, even if he didn't get why it held such appeal for you.
Alright.
He crouched down just enough for you to hop on his back in a practice move. As there wasn't much of a difference in height between you, he didn't need to bend down much at all, and with how often you'd done it, there was no trouble in climbing aboard the Cove Express. I love this. Cove straightened up with poise, accustomed to balancing someone over his shoulders. Cove carried you down the stairs. You had to duck down a couple of times, the ceiling grazing against your elevated head. Ooh, this was not thought through. Still, you safely reached the ground floor of your house. The door's gonna be in the way. Get off here so I can open it. He bent down to let you slide safely off his back. Seeing things from your usual height was disorienting after getting accustomed to looking down at everything. In all the excitement of Cove's return, you hadn't even remembered the gift you'd prepared for when he got back. It would be best to give it to him now, before he left your house. Can you wait here for a little while? I got something for you. Cove tilted his head, intrigued.
Really?
You nodded with some eagerness, trying to imagine how you'd react when he actually saw it. Now, did I buy him something, or did I make him something? I am undecided, honestly. I want to see both. I'm honestly so conflicted with this choice that if it weren't literally at the start of a video, I probably would end it here and just be like, alright, decide, comment wars, go. But that also wouldn't work because then my buffer would be destroyed and that'd be bad. You'd bought Cove something special. It was? I love all of these! They're all callbacks. Oh my gosh! I've missed this game. I've missed this so much. I'm gonna go for the flirty one. An anklet for you to model for him. You smiled to yourself as you ascended the stairs to retrieve the gift. It looked innocent enough, tucked away safely in your room, but appearances could be deceiving. You picked it up and hurried back down to Cove, the item hidden in your hand. You waited until you were in front of him to reveal the item, holding it out before your longtime neighbor. Cove smiled, still none the wiser.
Cool.
Nice, Joy. I can definitely wear that. You snatched back your hand and held the anklet behind your back out of Cove's reach while you wagged a finger at him with your free hand. No, you can't. It's not for you to wear. The gift is seeing me wear it. I love his face. This was the correct choice. Cove's mouth dropped open. His hand was still outstretched from when he'd reached out for the gift, left hovering, forgotten in the air. Cove blushed. He drew his arm back and ran a hand through his hair where it snagged against his other hand as it did the same thing. Your surprise had disoriented him, though he didn't have any objections. Even after all the time you'd been together, you still knew how to have an impact on him. You're very thoughtful to remember that and everything. His soft voice tickled you, much like the butterflies that so often took up residence in your stomach when it came to him. You're really seriously too nice to me. You smiled back. You have no right to call anyone else too nice. Cove brushed his hand against the pale ghost of a scar on his arm. He was at a loss for what to do now. The clock ticked away, counting the seconds of silence. Once you'd had a chance to settle your thoughts, you figured you'd tell Cove the intriguing news. I have to tell you, you're never gonna guess who I saw today. You didn't give Cove a chance to reply. There seriously was no way that he'd figure it out. Shiloh!
Huh?
Shiloh? Cove repeated the name, his expression blank. From when we were kids. Cove pondered for a moment, then snapped his fingers. Oh, he was the freckly boy from that first summer, right? The one who moved. The guy was named Shiloh, and he looked just like the Shiloh from back then, even wearing a hat still. But he had no idea who I was, and ran off somewhere. Cove frowned. That's... I don't know. Too bad I missed it. Though you knew him better than I did. That was definitely true. Not only had Cove known Shiloh for a shorter period of time, but he and Shiloh had never quite gotten along. Not that they were enemies either, just kids who were only ever together because of other people they both knew. I wonder what Shiloh's up to these days. I don't have any idea. He didn't say much.
Oh.
Oh well. That was everything you had on that news item, so you moved on to the next big update. Also, you know the mean old neighbors? The ones who always yell at us? He cringed, recalling those particular memories of back in the day was not pleasant even for someone as nostalgic as him. Yeah? They're not coming. They didn't rent the condo this summer. Cove's jaw dropped. You didn't blame him. The elderly couple had been in an institution for as far back as you could remember, long predating Cove's arrival. Even now, as a teenager, you found your neck prickling as you walked by their condo, half expecting a scolding for breathing the wrong way in the vicinity of their vacation home. It was strange to think of that coming to an end. Wow. Cove blinked, clearly struggling with the idea in the same way you had. I didn't see that coming. People being gone, people coming back. It feels like I've missed a lot. That's how it be. This has been a busy summer already. Well, you haven't missed the fireflies. They haven't shown up yet. Well, that's something. And we better not get left behind. There's still stuff to do. You nodded. As soon as you'd left your house, Cove bent down to let you climb back onto his back for the last part of the journey. Yes! It seemed that no sooner had the night begun than it was already at an end, and the dawn of a new day was soon upon you. The next morning your belly was full of breakfast, and you were in a pleasant mood. You hoped the rest of the day followed suit. Later, you're meeting up with your friends, Cove, Miranda, and Terry, to go into town. It was all on short notice, but that was because everyone was just so excited that Cove was finally back home. I'm sorry. I haven't been confronted with it in a while. It makes me sad. Having a nice daydream? You blinked, pushing all your thoughts away and returning to reality. Your mom was watching you with a teasing smile.
Alright.
So, what's on the agenda today? I'm meeting up with some people. Well, I hope you and your friends have fun. Don't get into too much trouble. She winked at you. You knew both of your moms wanted you to enjoy every bit of the summer before all the big changes started. I'll try.
That'd be great.
But before you go gallivanting around the town, could you bring the mail in? I'm finishing up putting the dishes away over here. Alright. Thanks very much. Mr. Holden is getting more surfer dude energy with each passing section of this game, and I'm here for it. As soon as you were outside your front door, you couldn't help but see Cove and his dad standing in the road. They noticed you too.
Hey.
Hey there, Joy. Cove smiled lightly and waved. When you began making your way over, he added, Hi. You hugged him. I'm a hugger, alright? I am a hugger. If I'm given only one form of affection for the rest of my life, it's gonna be hugs. Alright? I will not be judged for this. Hugs are powerful. Anyway. Melting into his arms, Cove held you tightly until you were ready to let go. His eyes shone brightly with so much adoration that you feared your heart might stop. Even after all this time, being with him hadn't got any less thrilling. You noticed Mr. Holden was taking in the scene of you and Cove with a self-satisfied smile. Cove followed your line of sight and shot his dad an unimpressed look. For a moment, Mr. Holden seemed like he had thought dancing on the tip of his tongue, but he decided to keep it to himself. So, what are you up to today? Me and Cove are meeting some friends later. We're gonna paint the town red. Exciting. They won't know what hit him. Cove shook his head disapprovingly, but you knew him well enough to tell that he was entertained by your notion. Yawning, Mr. Holden stretched his arms over his head. My boy and I have just been waiting around to see what the new neighbors are like. It was definitely his idea. I don't know how you're not interested in this. It's big news. Besides, it'd only be polite to greet the new folks in town. New folks? Well, anyone has to be better than the last tenants.
I don't know.
I don't know. That house could be cursed, and we could keep getting ones that are progressively worse. He cracked a cheeky grin at his own joke. You could tell Mr. Holden was looking at the empty house, thinking about the nightmare that was the last tenants. He chuckled, turning to Cove. But that would be horrible. Knock on wood. Mr. Holden took one more glance at the currently vacant building and sighed dramatically. When he turned back to you and Cove, his whole body seemed deflated. There's no sign of them, and I still need to head over to work soon. Cove gave his dad a few reassuring pats on the back. Okay, I promise to keep an eye out. I can text you if anything happens. Really?
Of course.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, only until I have to meet up with Terry and Miranda. Would that still work? With a wide grin breaking out on his face, Mr. Holden looked absolutely thrilled to have his nosiness enabled. That works. I love him. He moved to firmly place both hands over Cove's shoulders, fixing his child with a firm stare. Son, you are my true ally in this world. Mr. Holden stood up straighter, letting Cove go. He looked reinvigorated. Okay, with that settled, I'll go make some money. That's always been the one thing I do best. We all gotta have our one thing. My one thing is making delicious bread. And occasionally I put out good content, you know. I'm sorry. Mr. Holden headed off to the garage with a big wave goodbye. Cove smiled the whole time you both watched his dad leave. You really liked Mr. Holden. You had for a long time. As soon as he was out of sight, Cove sighed lightly. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, just not looking forward to waiting. Guess I'll be hanging around the street for a while. Why don't I stay to see the new neighbor and keep you company? Curiosity about the new tenant was getting the better of you, and you figured that the wait wouldn't be too much longer. And besides, you just couldn't leave Cove. Really? Of course. I like keeping you company, remember? He stared at you a moment, smiling softly and thinking about his response.
Me too.
I like that too. Aww. Cove put his hands on your shoulders. His thumbs absent-mindedly moved in a soothing circle. The look in his eyes was much firmer. He was serious. Joy, you're my true ally in this world. That got a fair amount of chuckles from you. He grinned, the stoicism fading into amusement.
Thank you.
I knew you'd stay for me. I can't help myself. Yeah? Well, good then. I don't know what I would do without you. The smile on his face reached his eyes, and it made you feel electric. And then he let go of you. Cove stepped over to his front porch steps, lazily taking a seat and leaning back on his arms. Our watch begins. Nodding in agreement, you joined Cove on the front porch steps. You both sat there in a comfortable familiarity as you settled in for the waiting game on the new tenants. The neighborhood was quiet, and you sighed contentedly, closing your eyes and feeling the light breeze. Eventually, you both perked up at the sound of a car. A taxi followed the noise, turning into your street. Cove's eyebrows raised at the sight, and he sat up straight on the stoop.
Oh?
This has to be them, right? The only people who come out here live here. It has to be. Now that they were here, you couldn't help but feel just a bit curious. You wondered what kind of person would be living in the neighborhood for the summer. The taxi pulled to a stop, as you expected, in front of the now empty condo. It was on the same side of the street as your house, a few buildings further up. Without getting to his feet, Cove tried leaning and tilting his head to get a view of the passenger door as it opened. The single occupant exited the cab. Huh? You could feel what Cove was in that moment. After the last renters, this new visitor was definitely not exactly what you'd expected. Oh, hello. It was a young man. Had to be close to your own age. He was dressed fully in an electric black, white, and gray outfit. Even his side-swooping hair matched the scheme. The only other pop of color was from something that couldn't easily be fashioned into submission, a pair of dark brown eyes, which you caught when he looked over at his audience. Hello, folks. Who might you be? We're the neighbors. Smooth, Cove, smooth. The smile already prominent on his face curled further. It was cocky, but you didn't get the impression it meant something adverse. Hallelujah. You and Cove shared a familiar look with one another, bewildered even further. The color-coordinated man left it there, however, and with a firm click he shut the door of his ride. Then he turned his back to you to retrieve a large, unsurprisingly black suitcase out of the trunk. Continuing on his own business, he scrolled forward and lightly tapped on the driver's side window with his knuckles, asking for them to roll it down. When it opened, he leaned down and rested his arm on the edge. You assumed he was thanking the driver for getting him there, considering he slipped them a tip during the brief chat. They shook hands, and then he pushed himself up and away from the taxi with both arms, giving the driver room to leave. The taxi pulled away, rolling carefully down the road and out of sight around a corner. The new renter had officially arrived. I have feelings about this and I'm not sure if I like it. He left his suitcase on the ground, out of the way of the street, and sauntered over your way with the confidence of someone who had been invited to join. Cove finally stood up to greet this person. You followed suit.
Excellent.
Oh, that voice actor. I'm Baxter Ward. It's excellent to meet you, the neighbors. You were standing on the side he was approaching from. When Baxter got close enough, he offered his hand to you first. Alright, so I am a hugger. But you gotta earn your hugs. I don't know this dude, so he gets a firm handshake. You shook it. Baxter gripped your hand firmly to give a satisfying shake. Welcome to Sunset Bird, Baxter. I'm Joy. Hey, Joy. I'm quite keen on getting to know you better this summer. We could be good friends. From your other side, Cove made a sudden sputtering noise. And you are? He lifted his hand out to Cove next. Cove instead crossed his arms to express his rejection of that idea, still eyeing Baxter carefully. I'm Cove. Baxter's whole demeanor lit up for unknown reasons. His eyes shone as he studied Cove a moment.
Really?
I love the voice actor. Look, I got a thing for voices. Leave me alone. Now wait, is that a nickname or your real name? It's just my name. Cove spoke mildly, having given that explanation many times in the past, but it clearly charmed Baxter all the same. He tossed his head to one side with a laugh. Your parents knew exactly what they were doing. I can't imagine a more fitting name for the face I'm seeing. Cove, that's gorgeous. I love this guy. It's really not. Do I join in, or do I defend my territory? Both are equally tempting. No, I agree. It suits you.
Not bad.
Ah! Nice. I'm sorry. They gave him the deep, silky voice. I am weak. Nice to see someone else knows. The impact might have faded for you living with it this long, but I promise to the onlooker it's a knockout. Poor Cove. Cove couldn't face either of you after that. His cheeks were quickly turning bright red with embarrassment. You noticed that Baxter looked apologetic over Cove's increased discomfort. I'm sorry, it wasn't intended to mean more than it did. I like your name, but you don't have to mind that. I'm patently against stepping on anyone's toes. He chuckled to himself. It seemed like there was some extra meaning hidden there in his words, and you noticed Cove raised an eyebrow, picking up on that too. Baxter didn't even open his eyes to see your faces to know he had some filling to do. Some filling? Filling in? I guess? I don't know. Weird phrasing. He stood up straighter, striking a slight pose with the position of his feet. I'm a ballroom dancer. Hence the phrasing. Ah. Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that. You got too much swagger. Oh. I don't know much about dancing, but that's pretty cool. It's not hard once you get the basics down. Also true. In my past life, I was a ballroom dancer. Alright, guys? I've had a lot of past lives. Cove didn't... I'm just gonna let that one whiz by. Cove didn't look convinced at all. Baxter took that as a cue to keep talking.
Well.
That voice! Ah! He grinned in a way that was rapidly becoming familiar to you. If either of you are ever looking for a partner, I'm available. What kind of partner, Baxter? Cove peeked at you, smiling softly. You felt his familiar touch as he squeezed your hand for a moment. I already have a partner. Joy is the only one I'd want to dance with. Sorry. They're my significant other. You're both together? Yeah, we are. Now that's crushing, but makes sense. I got here too late. Should have taken a semester off sooner.
I get it.
That's a joke, really. I didn't mean to intrude on anything you have with the offer. Alright. Even though this Baxter dude has the silky smooth voice, and I adore it, I'm going to be loyal. I am a good squish. Cove is my one and only. My ears might be cheating on him, but my words shall not. Exactly. Cove is the guy I'd dance with. Baxter smiled and nodded understandingly, letting the subject go. After that, there was a lull in the conversation, and Cove attempted to fill it in.
So...
What made you decide on Sunset Bird? Oh, yes. Well, my parents rented a condo, so I had a place to stay while I'm off for a semester from college and not living in the dorms. There was a playful glint in Baxter's eyes as he continued.
Honestly.
Ideally, they wanted to send me somewhere that wasn't too exciting, but lucky for me, they picked the wrong street, considering the two of you live here. Damn, boy. Baxter then preemptively lifted his hands up in front of his chest, giving the gesture for meaning no harm. It's nice not to be the only one my age around the neighborhood for an entire summer. Nothing more. That was a story you had heard before. The same one as when Lonely Cove and his dad moved in all those years ago. Cove wasn't relating, still. You could have phrased it like that in the first place. I don't feel the need to keep words of praise to myself, but they're not romantic come-ons. I see that you two are very much a committed pair. I'd like to be friends if we can, but that's all. It's okay. I'm kind of digging the slight jealousy from Cove. Is that bad? So, IRL, I work in a kitchen, right? We're pretty relaxed. We're pretty flirty with each other. We all understand that everybody else is off limits, but we still kind of flirt with each other, and it's fun. So, like, realistically, this kind of banter does not faze me at all. But I feel like if I say it doesn't bother me, that's gonna bother Cove. So... I'd appreciate it if you didn't do that with me. I'll keep it in check. Glad we're working things out. Shifting his weight to his other foot, Baxter tried to move forward.
So...
So which condo is yours? How long have you been living together? Oh, no. Cove! Cove sputtered again, and unintentionally a laugh escaped you.
That's...
We're both your neighbors, but we live in different houses with our parents. As if second nature, the two of you pointed to your homes, the buildings directly across the street from each other. Baxter's eyebrows raised at that. Your neighbors who started dating? What a couple of lovebirds. You're the backbone of romantic society. Yeah. Honestly, I hope you never break up. If you can make it work, there might be a chance for the rest of us. I love Cove's face. You knew Cove well enough to tell there was a little bit of amusement in his expression, but he sighed in exasperation. After that, you had no doubts about his claims of being complimentary. You shook your head at it. Too much again? Kind of. Well, if either of you are free, I'd be thrilled to hang out this summer, but we can save the schedule talk for later. I should get my things inside. He gave a small nod of the head and flashed you both a dazzling smile.
Goodbye.
Whisper to me more. a good thing my wife doesn't watch the... Goodbye for today. Cove smiled. Cove simply waved goodbye. Bye. Baxter then turned on his heels and strolled back to his suitcase, picking it up and bringing it to his condo. You and Cove were silent as Baxter unlocked the door and disappeared inside the house. With him completely out of the scene, Cove let a long breath.
Well,
I don't know how I'm gonna explain that guy to my dad. You burst into a fit of laughter trying to imagine the conversation. At least the job is done. We saw the new neighbor, and now we can go meet up with Terry and Miranda. Yeah, we should get going. You gave Baxter's condo one last glance over your shoulder. You thought he was charming. You really weren't sure when, but at some point Baxter won you over. You were curious to get to know him better. Laughing quietly, you wondered how Baxter would fit in with the rest of the neighborhood. Turning your attention back to Cove, you pushed all thoughts of Baxter aside. You both started making your way towards town. You took his hand. You slid your palm into his, and Cove laced his fingers with yours. His expression instantly became happier, and he lightly squeezed your hand. A little while later, you and Cove reached a main street in town. All of a sudden, you stopped walking. What's wrong? I think I felt my phone vibrate. You dug your cell phone out and looked at it with a satisfied grin. There was a new message. You opened the new text from Miranda, and all you saw was, "I can see you." Immediately, from where you stood, you started swiveling your head around. You couldn't spot Miranda anywhere, but she did send you more messages. I like this girl already. I saw you holding Cove's hand. Scandalous! Haha, come on. The message was sent, and you were back to looking around, scanning for any sign of movement and familiar faces, but they were still invisible. Cove looked at you carefully, raising an eyebrow. You grabbed onto Cove again, wanting to show Miranda how scandalous you could be. At once, you hooked your arm around his neck, still holding your phone, and brought him even closer to you. He blushed and gave you a look mixed with amusement and confusion. Poor boy. Seriously, Joy? What did that message even say? It's just like, what the fuck's going on? Like, I'm happy about it, but I don't know what's going on. Before you could even begin to explain anything to Cove, you both snapped your attention to the yelling from across the street. And there you saw Miranda and Terry coming out from behind the backside wall of the grocery store. They both started waving wildly to draw even more attention to themselves. Oh. With your friend's grand entrance made, Cove seemed to realize the joke. He smiled with a sigh, and you let him go for a moment, chuckling. Cove took a step in their direction. He grinned and waited for them to get closer. Laughing in arm, the girls stopped only to look both ways and then rushed across the empty street.
Hi.
She's cute! Hi, I hope you weren't waiting too long.
Hey, buddies.
She's also cute! I'm sorry, I approve. Hi. Hey, I'm so happy to see you two. Now that they were here, their joke on you was already long forgotten in your mind. Terry and Miranda giggled, smiling wide at your decoration. Terry then closed the distance between her and Cove and crushed him in a painfully tight hug. You're finally here. It's been so long. What took you? He did his best to eke out a reply with his chest being compressed.
Sorry.
Eventually she let him go. Terry looked at him with a beaming smile, but Cove was distracted, rubbing his arms. Standing there, Miranda shifted her weight to her other hip. She watched Cove patiently with a bashful smile. Welcome back. Thanks. It finally felt official. Everyone was together in one place. From here, you weren't sure how often you would have another afternoon like this again. They didn't either.
So?
Cove? Terry poked Cove square in the chest. You're gonna have to get me your schedule by this time yesterday.
No way.
Not really possible, Terry, but I can say as soon as I know. So far, work hasn't said anything, but I can tell you I'm busy with Orca activities. Orca? When Cove wasn't at his part-time job or pursuing his athletic and academic interest, he was volunteered for the Ocean Restoration California affiliation. Orca. Huh. Anybody know if that's a real thing? Because that sounds like a real thing. Could definitely be a real thing. And honestly, they've referenced so many real things at this point, I would not be surprised if it was a real thing. But let me know if you know, because I'll probably forget to look it up. The group focused on cleaning up beaches and removing pollution from the ocean. Cove always loved the sea. It didn't surprise you one bit when he started getting involved with them. You joined Orca too after learning of it. Their big smash event for the year is coming right up, isn't it? Yeah, there's not that much more to do before then, but I'm kinda looking forward to the fundraising push. Hopefully we can pull it off. If anyone can do it, it's you two. And even if it goes really bad, it'll still look good on a college application at least. All the years spent doing this, that, and the other volunteer work so that colleges will like you more. Not because you actually care. I'm not bitter. That's true.
Hey.
Hey, guess what else? We don't have to stand here to say stuff. Let's go! I would like a meal now. I like Terry. Perking up, Cove nodded in agreement. Yeah, I'm hungry. Time to head out. The four of you headed into town, happily chatting the whole way. The only decision left to make was where exactly to stop and eat. The rest of the afternoon and evening passed by in the blink of an eye. When night fell, it was time to head home, and you parted ways with Miranda and Terry. You and Cove reached your neighborhood without event. It was late enough that your out-of-the-way street was dark and silent. Cove was giving you a piggyback ride home. It was a long day out and about. You appreciated that you could rely on him to make things more comfortable for you. You tightened your grip on Cove and turned your head ever so slightly, peering at his face out of the corner of your eyes. You wondered why he felt so distant to you. It was out of character. For a while, Cove silently stared ahead and left you alone with your own thoughts. It surprised you when you did hear his voice all of a sudden. He still wouldn't look at you. It feels weird coming back to the neighborhood and trying to get into things like they're the same. And they're not. They've changed. They're still changing. Yeah. Anytime I'm back in, the area where my parents live, I'm just like, huh. It's all different now. And it's only been 2 years for me. Your mouth felt uncomfortably dry all of a sudden. It was true, the things that kept the people you knew together were starting to disappear. Each person had made their own priorities and their own path now that it wasn't set for them. You thought about your own immediate future. You had been considering more and more, and ideas were starting to settle in your mind. You hoped to work full-time, focus on time that's not school or work, and that was the basics. For your career, you thought you'd do contract work, and maybe start your own business. And that was all. For yourself, you wanted to try to figure out what you truly want. Work on self-improvement on your own. And take some time just to relax. And that was all. And for that, you wanted to stay local. It'd all be happening so soon. You'd already applied to jobs, and you'd only spoken about this with family and those you were close to, like Cove. Now you wondered what Cove had in mind. You'd heard him consider some things for his future, but it was never anything that would have counted as a real plan. Cove stopped in the middle of the street. He sighed and put you down. You were both outside of your houses. Cove looked at the ground for a moment. His mouth trembled, trying to settle on the right words to say. So, are you still thinking about relaxing for a while and stuff in Sunset Bird? Yeah, you remember? Cove closed his eyes and nodded while he composed his thoughts. He looked at you when he lifted his head.
I mean,
I decided on something. Well, kind of. He smiled slightly and rubbed his arm, and then his expression grew more serious. I'm not gonna decide on a school or a career. Not this summer. I'm gonna stay here, at least in Sunset Bird. I'll probably move out of my dad's place. I'll keep working my job, keep doing my volunteer stuff, and everything else.
I don't know.
Maybe I'll know what I want for myself by fall, or next year, or maybe I'll never have a plan. Life will continue on with whatever's happening. I'm not gonna crush myself trying to have everything figured out by a timeline that someone else has set. I just can't do it. His brow furrowed, and his tone was tense. It was clear how much expectations were weighing on him.
I guess.
I guess it'll be me and you, right here for a while longer. His eyes were glossy. You weren't going to be separated, and that meant a very great deal to him. You nodded understandingly. Cove sighed. He looked relieved that you understood. I'll see you tomorrow, Joy. I'm already looking forward to it. Night. He pulled you into an unexpected hug. It knocked the breath out of you, yet couldn't have been a more reassuring feeling. You returned his embrace and stayed that way for as long as you could.
Good night.
He finally let go, giving you another smile. Then Cove started walking away, but you remained there, frozen in the middle of the street. You watched him and wondered how many more times will he be able to say that he'll see you tomorrow. You hoped for countless more times. Finally, you turned towards your own house. You vowed to yourself that you would make the most out of every moment you had this summer. And that's actually perfect timing, because we're like coming up on an hour, and that was like the perfect length for an episode. I'm happy! Ah! I have so many feelings. Like, I feel like part of it is just that I am so... Like, I've been in withdrawal from content creation for a couple weeks now, and I'm just like, I need to do this. And I've been in withdrawal from this game in particular for a couple weeks, and I'm just like, I want it more! I'm sorry, guys. I'm a mess right now. Hopefully, I will be a little bit less, everywhere by the next episode. As of this recording, I haven't actually sat down with my kid brother to, start working on the KOTOR Let's Play, but like by the time this goes live for everyone, it'll already be up and there will be a couple episodes, so I hope you guys are enjoying that, people from the future. Anyway, thank you again for all of your support. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, and I hope to see you again in the next one.